Religious reactions skyrockets in Cameroon as the dust is yet to settle in the English-speaking regions of the country. In this newscast, we shall have extracts of some religious leaders. And at the site, meanwhile, some localities and areas in Cameroon are conducive for a living. Others are still begging for amenities. In this newscast, we shall be traveling you to visit one or two areas in Cameroon. These are the top stories. The news in brief in just a jiffy. Good evening and welcome on the news. This is 6 p.m. on Equinoxe Television, and like we mentioned just a couple of seconds ago, after the religious reactions yesterday criticizing the state of affairs in the English-speaking regions of the country, we have the Reverend leader of the Presbyterian Church for Cameroon, Reverend Funky Samuel Fobe, who says the military deployment in the English-speaking troubled regions of the country is not helping matters. He say it's actually promoting uncertainty and fear in the said areas. Here is an extract, an audio extract compiled by Babila Jonathan for this newscast.
The situation is a hopeless one. People are insecure. Life is very difficult. People are in the bushes and they are not quite sure when all of this will end. People are afraid to come out in the open because they are afraid of strange bullets or to be arrested. And so everybody is just so much afraid. And life is so difficult to live within the two regions of our country, Northwest and Southwest region. And it's such a deplorable situation, which we think that we can only pray and ask God's faith in this crucial moment of our lives and history.
The church and of course the schools of the church have been badly affected by the crisis in several parts of the two regions.
The Presbyterian Church in Cameroon has suffered a lot. One of our teachers, the principals, was shot, and by God's grace he's surviving, but he has no face at all. 78 children were kidnapped in Quen. PSS Bafut was burned, and part of PGSS was also burned. And so the situation is still the same. Out of our 21 boarding schools, only about 3 or 4 in Anglophone Cameroon are managing to survive. And that is such a deplorable situation as far as God's mission to bring quality education to our children is concerned. And that is why the church decided to open up schools in Francophone Cameroon, one in Yaoundé and one in Douala.
Reverend, what is the impact of the continuous violence on recommendations of the major national dialogue and efforts to restore peace and normalcy in the two regions?
I was part of the national dialogue, and I expected that after the lofty ideas were arrived at by the 8 commissions, one would have expected that by now there would have been peace in the two regions of our country. Unfortunately, it looks as if those resolutions have not been implemented, and if they are, I'm not aware of them, and the public is not aware of them. Maybe they are taking time to do the implementation into phases. Unfortunately, after the Grand National Dialogue, one would have expected that a relative peace will reign in the two regions of our country. But the situation is still getting worse and going down the drain. Our economy is shattered. People are just helpless and frustrated with life. And the military is still taking its place, and the Amber Boys are also on their part taking their stronghold and making their promises and declarations that they are not going to let go peace for whatever reason. And so we are all hooked up, and the one who is suffering most is the common person on the street, and they are so helpless that they don't know where to turn to.
And in a similar audio extract still compiled by Babila Jonathan for this newscast, the PCC Presbyterian Church of Cameroon's moderator, we have the Reverend Funky Samuel Forbes, says the people in the southwest and northwest regions are living in very hopeless situation. Here is an extract.
Reverend, the deployment of more troops to the northwest and southwest regions of the country, is it helping the situation?
Not at all, not at all. And I think these troops have been deployed for the sake of the elections coming on. And I don't think that is a solution to a political agenda in a nation like ours that is so much developed that you use troops in order to have a political agenda arrived at. I think there are other methods government could use to still arrive the same political goals of the nation instead of using the military. And I don't see how the military's presence in the northern and southwest will make elections successful. I think it will instead make elections fail. Instead of using other methods, the military has been deployed in order to guarantee free and fair elections. Unfortunately, that's the wrong approach to me.
As a moral and spiritual authority, Reverend Funky Samuel Foba, what message do you have for the people of the northwest and southwest regions of the country in these very trying moments?
My message to the people of the northwest and southwest regions is a message of peace. No matter what happens, we should remain in peace. No matter how many guns and bullets are pointed at us, we should take up the peace plan and go on our knees and continue to pray for lasting peace in our nation. I think that's my message to the people of Cameroon and not only to the people of the northwest and southwest region. We need peace at this time. It is the only thing that can guarantee a better life for Cameroonians in the days ahead. No matter what, in a war like this one, there is no winner and there is no loser. And if we keep thinking that we are succeeding as the army, or we keep thinking we are succeeding as the Amber Boys, we are just wasting our time. And the common man is suffering, dying in hunger and in poverty.
And meanwhile, some other areas in Cameroon live in normalcy and conducive atmosphere. We have the populations in the English-speaking regions of the country begging for peace and normalcy. We have still these other populations in Mabombe, Mombo, and Jombe Penja. We are in the Mungo division of the country. These ones say they need social amenities as they expressed and presented their situation to the senior divisional officer of the area who visited these areas respectively. As you tell us, Innocent Aze.
During his Meet the People tour, Yves Bertrand Jana, Senior Divisional Officer for the Mungo Division, first stops at Mabombe, most enclaved locality in Lum in the Mungo. Though endowed with agricultural produce, the needs of this village are numerous, ranging from lack of passable roads to flexibly evacuate farm produce to commercial centers.
Pardon, on demande au gouvernement de faire quelque chose pour nous parce que les plantains souffrent. Qu'on nous ouvre les vannes pour que la nourriture sorte plus.
Pipe-borne water is lacking, with the population relying on exposed streams and other doubtful and unhealthy sources.
L'eau est responsable d'au moins 80% des maladies.
Health centers are lacking, and the loan that existed long ago has been abandoned and now non-functional.
Si l'État pouvait nous aider aussi à ouvrir ce centre-là, parce que c'est un grand centre, il y a derrière les bâtiments, il y a tout. Il faut seulement le décret pour l'ouverture, c'est tout.
Mabombe is equally hosting internally displaced persons of the Anglophone crisis. The senior divisional officer, before departing to Njombe Penja and Mombo, congratulated the hospitality accorded the displaced English speakers.
Nous devons continuer à accueillir nos frères qui viennent du nord-ouest et du sud-ouest.
He did not fail to invite the population to mobilize and take active part in the upcoming twin elections, so as to elect leaders who will relieve them from enclavement.
Nous vous invitons à aller aux élections pour pouvoir participer au choix de vos dirigeants.
The senior civil administrator has assured security of the voters, knowing fully well they are approximate to the restive southwest region.
Des stratégies sont mises sur pied pour que le moment venu, toutes les populations puissent participer.
Polling stations threatened by separatist fighters, he assured, have been identified and secured.
And away from that, we take you to the far north region of the country, precisely in Mokolo, where the population there is suffering from the switch of climate change with respect to the change of seasons, which comes with seasonal changes and illnesses, which we have called for Qatar, as we have details once again with you, Innocent Azay.
This is the Mokolo neighborhood in Betwa. This dusty seasonal road is havoc to the inhabitants. His house along the road is invaded by dust. Marketed food items are not spared. Health is affected with cough and catarrh common. Bike riders say income fetch in this dusty condition is more of a fool's errand. To the population, their wish is that the road stretch is tarred. It should be tarred, he stresses, because it is an economic zone mostly frequented. He also wishes the road is watered on daily basis for the time being. In the Caribbean quarter, the residents give a sigh of relief. Their situation was similar to that of those living in Mokolo. Several seasonal roads have been enlarged and tarred, but the population still are discontented.
Pour donner la ville, c'est une bonne chose, mais la qualité n'est pas bonne. Ça, ce n'est pas une bonne qualité.
They think the tarring is of poor quality and will not last for long.
Que l'idée, elle est bonne, mais la bonne matière manque.
A report which took us rather to Beto, precisely at Mokolo, and in the similar atmosphere, the population of Kongsamber, they are complaining of very dusty roads because they say most road infrastructures have been abandoned. We have details with you, Immaculate Fogwe.
We are in Kongsamber, precisely on the stretch of road heading to Government Bilingual High School Kongsamber in the Mungo division of the Littoral region. Inhabitants of the area are yet to deal with the current situation of polluted air due to the very dusty strait. Plying the stretch has practically become a nightmare for road users as they turn to wear masks so as to prevent themselves from inhaling the dust. The situation has equally resulted to several accidents being recorded in the area. Most of the drivers plying the stretch of road do face a lot of difficulties as they are unable to see clearly what is ahead of them. The situation has resulted to several accidents. The houses built along the stretch are not indifferent to the situation as they have been decorated with thick films of dust, a situation faced by inhabitants for several years. The government kept on promising us that works will soon kickstart, but nothing has been done to remedy the situation. The population have no other choice than to wait on the government to react.
And we talk sports in this newscast with our sportsman smarter Jikan Gabriel, who tells us that ahead of the Qatar World Cup to be played, would say with Cameroon participating, they already know their opponents ahead of the qualifiers, which will have as Ivory Coast. We have details with you, smart Jikan Gabriel.
Just like in 2006, Cameroon's indomitable Lions will have as a major opponent the Elephants of Ivory Coast as they tussle to pick up the loan ticket that will enable them travel to Qatar in 2022 for the FIFA World Cup. In 2006, with 22 points plus 13 goals, Ivory Coast stopped Cameroon with 21 points plus 8 goals from participating at the 2006 World Cup that was hosted by Germany, with both teams experiencing a slump in their performances at the continental level. It's only the side with more precision and determination that will pick up the loan ticket for Qatar. At the draw ceremony which took place in Cairo, Egypt recently, apart from Ivory Coast that will be the major threat to Cameroon, the indomitable Lions must also watch out to group mate, the Flames of Malawi, that was also drawn in Group D of the Lions, alongside Mozambique. Those seen as a greenhorn might come up with surprises. The qualifiers for the Qatar 2022 World Cup kicks off October 2020. One country is expected to qualify from each of the group.
Better late than never. We shall be taking this other report getting to us into our studios at this time before receiving a guest who is already on standby. This has to do with medical exchanges on the effect so far as per the seasonal changes, which we had a report from Beto precisely, and also from Konsamba in the Mungo division of the country. Is the same, almost the same situation in the littoral region of the country, with almost very dusty roads and inhabitants complaining. We exchanged with a medical practitioner, and here is what we had to say. Among the seasonal changes effects comes along virus infections such as Qatar and cold, which often nails down persons with somewhat weak immune systems. Qatar in itself, according to health specialists, is the excessive discharge or buildup of mucus in the nose or throat associated with inflammation of the mucous membrane.
Le rhume, généralement, c'est un écoulement nasal ou bien un encombrement nasal.
With the spread of the virus at the peak of seasonal switches, people highly contract the disease during the dry season. Dr. Charles Chentry says it is as a result of its existence in the air and dust.
En fait, la grippe fait partie des pathologies saisonnières. Quand on change de temperature.
Meantime, there exist home remedies to keep body healthy, which are avoiding things that would trigger the symptoms such as allergens, smoky places, dusty places, among others. Dr. Charles Chentry as well advises hand washing, good feeding, and more.
Lorsqu'on mange bien un aliment équilibré, ça renforce déjà les défenses de l'organisme naturel.
And while aligning with preventive methods, health experts advise consultation after 3 days of persistent symptoms. Otherwise, complications such as sinuses could develop. And away from that, Derek Jato in the southwest region of the country presents to us other reflections by Wutse educationist at the University of Obuyo. This as per the learning procedures this recent days in the country. We have details with you, Derek Jato.
Critics are still hard on the point that the standard of education in Cameroon is steadily falling, and the negative feedback from employers complaining that most university graduates are unable to deliver is coming just to back the above observations. But higher learning institutions say they are not solely responsible for this falling standard. For to start from the beginning, the nursery and primary sectors should come into the picture.
So we have many problems in our education sector, and we are not putting emphasis on who is teaching the children at the base. And when we start off with a weak root, it is difficult to catch up when they come up in university. So
Chief Professor Agbo Bechem, Dean of the Faculty of Education in the University of Boya, has not only identified what he called the main problem, but his faculty is also bringing in solutions, and that is distance learning.
How we can take the education back to the teachers, this time not making them mobile by leaving the primary schools. By so doing, we got an MOU with the Commonwealth of Learning, where they are now designing programs for us to see how we can do online course development. So they can stay where they are, follow up classes where they are without necessarily leaving places like Akwaya. They don't necessarily need to live in Kambe to Boya for classes.
Today, the Faculty of Education is receiving Dr. Quenty, a consultant sent by the Commonwealth of Learning, an intergovernmental organization hosted by the government of Canada, for a workshop with lecturers of the Faculty of Education on this distance learning.
Is for lecturers of the Faculty of Education to upgrade their skills, to develop online and distance learning programs, put them online, run them, and actually manage them.
The University of Boya Faculty of Education is encouraging primary school teachers to engage in this distance learning program. First, to advance their teaching skills, and secondly, to step up the educational standard of Cameroon. From the base.
A report there by Jerry Chato from the southwest region of the country. Up next, Talking Point. Welcome back, and our guest today is a legal mind, is barrister at law, is an esquire. I'll call her Esquire Evelina Bome. Welcome on Equinoxe Television, and thanks for accepting our invitation on Talking Point.
Thank you for inviting me.
And you're here to talk about legal issues and to give us precisions about the rights, human rights generally, which has almost become a situation of abuse, mostly in schools, with recurrent incidents which you should be abreast with. A recent case in Ayos school milieu, where we have a divisional officer who gets into a classroom, beats up a teacher in front of the students. What's your first impression about this whole incident?
Actually, the events, as per what I've read so far on the social media and from the facts that you are presented to me, is quite scandalous in itself, in that it is virtually inconceivable to imagine that a divisional officer could brutalize or violate the personal integrity of a teacher. It leaves me without word, and from a legal point of view, of course, that's just the point of view as a citizen, as a Cameroonian citizen. I'm scandalized. But as a legal mind, it calls into questions several elements. Now, the person in question is a divisional officer, and the person that was violated is a secondary school teacher. There's a secondary school teacher of Ayos.
Yes.
So what are the legal implications of the acts perpetrated or the violence on the person of the secondary school teacher? Now, this is what the acts carried out by the administrative authority is what is called in French civil law a voie de fait, or a violation on the integrity or the violation of the person of the secondary school teacher. Now, this violation is an act, of course, as per our the laws in place on the different cases of jurisprudence. It is an act in itself that is so reprehensible that the administration does not recognize herself in such an act.
In the school milieu, precisely. In
the school milieu, precisely. It doesn't even matter. Let's take a different case scenario.
Is it faulty for the administrator? First of all, it's faulty for the administrator in a school milieu, because that's not the administrator's immediate area of command.
Yeah,
maybe.
Okay. The fact that it was taken out on the school premises aggravates the act in itself. But let's take a different case scenario. Let's say, for example, we are walking along the streets, and a divisional officer comes down from the car, and we exchange maybe heated words, and we get into blows, and maybe the divisional officer slaps a person or physically violates a person, irrespective of the area, whether it's on the school premises, on the streets, in the church. It is still a violation on the personal integrity of a person. And it is an act, like I said, that is so reprehensible that the administration does not recognize itself in the act. Now, the legal consequences, of course, I know you've not asked me that, and I'm going to get into the legal consequences, is that since it is an act that is so reprehensible, that is an act that administration does not recognize itself in the act, how can that act be dealt with? Okay. Now, the way the act can be dealt with now is that it is quite interesting in that, you know, it is a purely it is a mixed system of law that is applicable. Mixed system in the sense that the act itself is reprehensible. It is what we call the violation on the person of the victim. In French, we call it a voie de fait. The voie de fait has been described as an act that, like I said later on, that is so reprehensible that the administration does not recognize itself in the act. Now I'm going to expatiate and differentiate. You know, generally administrative authorities like senior district officers, district officers and DOs or governors, like we call them, carry out what we call unilateral administrative acts. Unilateral administrative, and I'm going to differentiate it with this violation, so you see the difference.
This one aligns the unilateral administrative act aligns with what the DO in question.
No, not at all. This is not a unilateral administrative act at all.
Okay.
So all the acts carried out by the district officers, senior district officers, the governors and the ministers, or even the president of the republic, they are what we call unilateral administrative acts. And unilateral administrative acts, they are acts carried out by an administrative authority in the course of execution of his duty.
Okay.
That causes rights and obligations to citizens or the people surrounding him. Those are the only acts that are permitted to carry out. They should be administrative acts. But now, if the administrative authority goes outside the line of their scope of influence, and violates the rights of a person, it is a violation of the personal integrity. That's what I describe as, this is what you call an act that is so reprehensible in itself that the administration cannot recognize itself in the act. Now, the legal consequences of the act now is a bit tricky in that you have to first of all go to the administrative court.
Yes.
The administrative court to adjudicate and actually declare that it is a violation of the human right or integrity. Actually, I like the word voie de fait. I like the French appellation voie de fait, because we should not forget that you know, our administrative law is a French received administrative law. Because, for example, if I'm a barrister practicing in, for example, in the UK or in the US, there's nothing like administrative law. So it is a purely French received piece of legislation that we receive as per the fact that we're colonized by France. Let me give an example. A senior district officer in the UK violates the rights of carries out an administrative order, and I want to contest it. It's the ordinary law courts that are competent. Yes. But in Cameroon, normally they are the administrative courts that are competent to understand, adjudicate, annul, or uphold acts carried out by administrative authority. So this act carried out by this administrative authority, the district officer of Ayos, should be taken to the administrative court. And since they are in Ayos and in Yaoundé, they should take it to the administrative court in Yaoundé. That will first of all adjudicate on the fact that it is a violation on the private laws and liberties.
Who takes the case to court?
And once the I'm going to come to that. And once the administrative court has already passed the ruling that it is effectively a violation of your integrity or a trespass to person. Yes. A trespass on your person. Trespass to your person means you've been violated, you've been slapped, you've been kicked or something like that. Then the matter now goes to the resort of the ordinary courts. When I say the ordinary courts, the courts that you people generally see around, like the court of first instance in Douala, High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. Those are what we call generally ordinary courts. But now the administrative court is like a court of exception. So you were asking that
who now presents the case? Who gets into the courts for the complaint? Is it the individual, the school? Because the divisional officer did not meet the teacher out of the classroom or out of the school premises in the school. So who actually channels the complaints to the court? The individual, the teacher who was abused? Because the teacher wasn't just beaten, but retained at the gendarmerie premises and released just today.
Yeah, so
Yes,
there was false imprisonment too.
Yes.
Okay, I think in this case, the most diligent parties should actually seize the administrative court. And in the case at hand, I don't know if the secondary school teacher is a civil servant or it's a private school. He's a civil servant?
A civil servant.
Okay, he's a civil servant. He's a civil servant. I would like to think that the very first act that he could do, he could seize his hierarchy and complain firstly of what has happened, and failure in the case of an absence of a reaction from the hierarchy, then he immediately seizes the administrative court. But irrespective of that, I think it could also be done administration against administration, because he is a civil servant dependent on the Ministry of National Education, of whom he is a civil servant. Of course, the Ministry of National Education too could jointly with the victim of the act, that's the secondary school teacher, actually seize the Ministry of Territorial Administration. Is very interesting. Actually, okay. I'm going to get to that, because now I first of all said that you have to pass through the administrative court. But how do you get through the administrative court? So the very first thing is that what they file is that they file a prior litigation complaint.
Okay.
So because she is the person in question is a district officer. They file a prior litigation complaint to the Ministry of Territorial Administration, and the absence, the failure to reply in 3 months' time of the Ministry of Territorial Administration implies a rejection of the complaint of their different grievances, and that is when they seize the administrative court now
to handle
the matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then, like I said, of course, it is a matter of the competence of the ordinary courts, because it is it's a trespass on the person of the secondary school teacher. But unfortunately or fortunately, like I say, as per our laws organizing the different procedures of the administrative court, the administrative court has to first of all adjudicate or actually declare that it is a trespass to person. And because it is a trespass to person, it is an act that is so reprehensible that it escapes the competence of the administrative court. Then it has to be taken to the ordinary courts for damages and
damages, which we could have, like, what kind of penalties? We could have what kind of penalties at the end of the whole case?
No, actually, we are looking just at basically maybe the competence of the ordinary law court. But let's also look at the section of the disciplinary sanctions too. Yeah. That could be meted out on the district officer that carried out this act. She could receive from my hierarchy. I'm assuming maybe they're informed of what has already happened. Yes. She could be given a warning. She could be given a sanction, a different kind of disciplinary sanction. We all know that these our civil servants never like to be transferred to
that could be another punishment.
That could be another disciplinary sanction too that could be meted out to her. Okay. Or maybe why not complete dismissal from the public service. Now it all depends now on the administration and the way they handle the matter.
Now last time, Metro Evelina Bome, we missed you, and we had this hot file with the incident which happened in Bonaberi with a teacher who raped a series of pupils in primary school. And as time runs by, it looks like the parents have been somewhat very choked up with the affair, and very few or almost no parent is ready to present the situation. Maybe if some of these parents are watching us, what is the right, or how do we handle such a situation legally?
Okay, I'm sorry about that I wasn't here the last time to be able to answer to some of the questions. Actually, the facts as per what was presented to me was that successive series of rape was perpetrated on minor children ranging from the ages of 9, 10, 11 and 12 years old. That's really minor children. So what are the legal consequences? Now, the perpetrator of the act or the alleged offender is a teacher of a primary school based in Dobo. So, in the first phase, what the parents could do, actually, if they are listening to me, I think what they could do is that they could form some kind of a consortium or a collective of group of parents of the minors who are victims of this incident of rape, because of course these children are minors. They don't have the legal age to actually institute illegal proceedings in court. They can only act through their parents. And it's very interesting, if you permit me the time, permit me to actually ascertain that to actually say here that, you know, the legal age where you have criminal liability is 18 years old.
Okay.
And the legal age for civil liability is 21 years old. So since these children are minor, they can only act through the parents. And if the parents are listening to me, I think the easiest way they can go about it is to file even an oral complaint at the State Council's office in Bonaberi, which is the State Council's office directly close to them. Of course, it is an act of rape on minor children, so it is an offense. It is a crime. Sorry, it's a crime. It's not a misdemeanor. It's a crime. It means it's an offense that attracts a prison sentence of more than 10 years old. So it is a high court that is competent. But to not scare away these parents and to start telling them maybe go to Bonanjo because it's a court of Bonanjo that's competent, they could go to the State Council's office in Bonaberi, even just a verbal complaint, because the State Council's office, they don't have to bother themselves with cumbersome issues like, you know, drafting a complaint. They might say, no, we don't have to draft a complaint. Just a verbal complaint enough is sufficient for the State Council to seize himself of the matter. Or the State Council, if the State Council's office is aware of this, could auto seize themselves and take charge of this matter. Once the State Council is aware of this, the State Council instructs now the most close gendarmerie or police post closest to the school to conduct investigations. Once the investigations are being conducted, I'm assuming the teacher has to be caught and placed under custody. And like I said the last time when we met, I was saying that it is much more interesting to when you are filing a complaint like this, to look at the action of the authorities of the school in which this act of rape has been carried out. What are they doing? Are they like trying to cover up the act of the alleged offender, that's the teacher? If they are, then it makes them an accomplice to the act. So while the complaint is filed jointly and severally with the school and the alleged perpetrator, who is the teacher of the school. Wow. And just like with a simple oral complaint, it's largely sufficient. They don't have to get scared away that, you know, we need to draft cumbersome documents. Just an oral complaint is sufficient. And the more they are, the better, the more weight it gives, the more credence it gives to the actually this horrific act of rape committed on minors at 11, 10 and 12 years old.
Thank you so much, Barrister Evelyn Bome. Thanks for accepting our invitation. We hope to have you here some other time.
Oh, I want to thank you very much for inviting me. I hope, given the short time that we've had, I've been able to answer to some of your questions and to reiterate the fact that as much as I can, I will be available each time you need me.
Thank you so much. We had Evelyn Bome. She's a legal mind, Esquire barrister at law, and that does it. She brushed up some legal issues concerning abuse, human rights abuse in the country. In the school milieu, we have had enough cases which she actually edified us. Hopefully tomorrow is another day. Thanks a lot for watching this pack of the News on Equinoxe Television. We'll meet you. Have a lovely night.